Hello, everyone. Welcome to Center of Light. Good to see you today. Lots of crazy things going on in the world, as if you didn't know. Heads up. 2022 is coming very, very soon. What lies beyond the veil of 2022? Infinite possibility. Right, wrong, up, down, in, out, hot, cold? It's all a decision on your part. I've been making new decisions. COVID has been a blessing to me. Not for many people, it hasn't been. My love, my heart, my compassion goes out to everyone. This is the land of all possibilities. And every day, every month, every year that goes by, as we keep moving up the mountain, eventually we're going to crest, we're going to peak. And then we can really get a peek of what's really happening behind the veil. Stay strong, stay solid, know who you are. You may ask, why? Who am I? That's for you to explore. Explore deeply, explore passionately, sincerely. You will find your way. Today, my guest is Marina Seren, I believe. Her name is pronounced. I love getting people's names pronounced correctly. Her links are in the forum to her website in these forums. So please go stomp all over her page, make a big noise, let her know you exist. She and I has a lot in common. She doesn't know this, but I know more about her. I'm just a radio guy from her perspective, but I did a little bit of groundwork. And like I always say, I don't like doing too much research on my guests. I like my conversations with them to be very organic. Very real, very raw. And so that being said, let me tell you just a little bit. She has a good history, but I'd rather get into the dialogue with her and tell you about her. So let me give you just a segue. Tonight is Reality from a Hybrid's Perspective. Marina Seren. My name is Marina Seren. I'm 21-year-old experienced from Madrid, Spain. I am a psychic medium and an extrasensory-seer, a conscious channeler of my higher mind, an intuitive artist, which I saw some of her recent art, looks fantastic, and an ET contactee, alien abductee, hybrid alien mother, which we're definitely going to be talking about some similarities there for me in my life, MILAB MK Ultra survivor, and secret space program psychic, supersoldier insider. What else to say but welcome to Center of Light Radio. Can you unmute your microphone?
Sorry. Thanks for having me here, I was saying.
Thank you very much. I'm glad you're here. I've watched some videos on you here and there, and I decided to make contact with you. There's a lot going on in that little bitty old frame of a body in there.
Oh, thanks.
So what would you like to dive in first? What sounds good to you? I would like to know more about the hybridization situations that you went in. I do believe that on an interview, I heard you speak about how you have mothered children.
Yes, I do have alien hybrid children between great DNA and also between mantis DNA and even Pleiadian DNA.
And this started happening to you about what age?
Well, when you're part of the hybrid programs, it's something that almost has been already pre-arranged when before incarnating, because it's really big programs of great importance. So as it takes so much, let's say, effort or work, conscious work, it usually takes like a lifetime, it's like you work since all your life, since birth, basically. So because it's not just about the idea of giving DNA or receiving DNA, it's also about the idea of how you integrate those genetics and how they also integrate them with you, like those processes of working with DNA in terms of consciousness. So it's also a transformative experience for both sides of it.
I have a friend of mine some years ago. It's a very long story, but we're going to keep it snippety short. I befriended an alien human hybrid here on the Earth, worked through the body of a woman. They called her Star One. This is not channeling, as we know channeling to be sit down and you go into voice mode and something takes over. This is different. This alien human hybrid would superimpose over her wherever she would go. Well, it just so happens the alien human hybrid is male, working through the body of a woman, but in turn had a relationship with the girl, not girlfriend, but a girl friend of mine. And then she began to having experiences as I with, his name is Nucleus 8. He's head of security for this quadrant of the Milky Way galaxy. And she has children with him on the Mothership Planetary Station about 23,000 light years in another dimension. When she was there, she gave birth. But I heard you say in your last passage that yours is more of a DNA kind of removing and implanting. Would this be correct?
Well, yes, because the hybrid programs, as I was part of it, it's just not about me giving DNA to certain ET races, but I actually receive it before being born into me physically when I was a fetus. So it's not just that I gave birth to alien hybrid children, but I was hybridized myself.
Do you have memories before this life of any particular civilization that you are part of?
I do get certain flashes of information when I'm meditating or in the astral, and I am aware of two specific lifetimes. One of them linearly speaking in the past in Germany, in Europe, and one of them being from the future, which is the hybrid civilizations. So technically you can say that I also came from the future.
How does it feel to be on Earth?
Well, technically it's a different Earth because it was Earth, but yeah, it for sure it feels different.
What about this time you had with the darker side of things? Is this something that still follows you around, or does it come in cycles depending on what you're up to? And are you being surveillanced, this and that and the other?
Well, what we need to understand on a quantum perspective is that besides the idea of incarnational cycle, like you had a past life here or there, the person that you are right now was created or born, let's say, in the now moment. So the structure, the metaphysical structure, is not any sort of complex linear or even cyclic, expression. It's more of a convergence, expression in which many different higher or lower dimensional, multidimensional aspects of your beingness all converge to create that sort of like mixture of genetics, experiences, identities, consciousness, individuals, etc., to create the person, the identity that you are here now, and to give you the information on the relevant things that you have came here to explore or to give away. So I have good karma, let's say, from the future, of course, but I also have bad karma from the past. So it's like my aspect from the future is helping my past aspect from the past to integrate those things that are not harmonically compatible with the frequency of the new Earth.
How are your nighttime? Well, I say nighttime because that's the way it happens for me at night when I release my consciousness from my body and I'm no longer distracted by the temptations of the outside world, basically when I go to sleep. Does most of your activity, to use a word, happen with you, for you, through you, when you lay your head down and you're able to go to the stars? Or is this something that happens to you in waking life and you got to sit down for a bit because everything's getting a little too fast?
Well, it's here and there. It's both when I'm awake and both when I'm in the astral. But, this is something general for most of us. We do many things in the astral then perhaps we will not be aware in the physical because it's not meant for us to know at the moment, because it's not relevant. We need our focus here because that's here now in the physical is when we have to place our focus to create that scenario, that possibility of ascension, of, you know, awakening, of evolution, transformation. But of course, many of us have many tasks and have many experiences and works in many different ways and co-creates with many different species up in the astral planes. You know, when we are expressing ourselves as a higher aspect that is more conscious. So for me, it's here and there, because it's true that when I'm in the astral, I am, you know, on the ships with the hybrid programs, or in the secret space programs, or with many other beings doing this and that. But when I wake up here, the information that I need to know to integrate it here or to navigate it in my spiritual path, it will come, even if I'm not aware. It will come. It will be channeled, you know, naturally to my physical mind, and I will start working on it in the way that it has been, for the purpose that it has been given. So many times I'm channeling, many times I get communication from those planes of consciousness, or things that I'm being part of, or processes that I need to take on. So I do the inner work, and I start to observe, and so it's also work, but here in the physical.
How is it for you that you are the people that are nearest you? How do they respond? Maybe you don't talk about it in front of them. Maybe you do, but let's say you didn't, and they come across some of Marina's videos on Facebook, which everybody's connected to, with your family, brothers and your cousins and all that thing. How is the response?
Well, negatively, because they, of course, are non-believers, and, you know, spirituality in New Age in general is not really integrated, you know, in the consciousness of individuals, because we are religions has always been the most, like, let's say, dominant spiritual practices or doctrines in the earth so far. So this new, like, pagan mixed movement of many different cultures and even religions have been rejected so far by people who have been raised in Christian environments, for example, like here in Spain. So that by itself, it's really rejected. It's something that you know, people doesn't share and doesn't even respect sometimes, because they're just ignorant to what it is. So imagine talking about being part of hybrid programs and secret space programs and nothing, you know, in Mars, in the moon. All these things sounds like, you know, nuts, you know, like a person who's not mentally stable. So of course they have negative comments to say, mostly in regards to that I'm going to benefit my future, because, you know, if somebody else if any company that I might work in the future finds out, that they're gonna, like, fire me, but, you know, I'm so connected to my purpose, and I'm just so connected to this. This is not just something that is on my head, it's in my heart, it's me, you know, it's my identity. So it's not something that I can just hide and reject and stop doing it because of whatever other, you know, reason. So
I love that you are so planted in your truth. You're unbudgeable. You're unfuckwithable. And I get it. You're smart enough, connected enough to know that when people are being people in their beautiful, ignorant way, you simply just put it to the side, acknowledge it, and move on, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Respectfully take them away from my life and say, the doors are open.
Someone wants to ask a question. Kim Gary, ask a question. There's going to be a delay, and I'll get with Marina on the question once you post it. Of course, you can ask a question. You know it's allowed here, girl. I got so much I want to ask you, because I see so many aspects of myself in you. What about your time with the space programs? Can you give me a little information about that so I can kind of peer into that room with you a little bit?
Sure. Well, the space programs is a really complex subject, you know, because
shit.
Yes, because we still own the third dimensional perspective or dynamics on how narratives, you know, evolve themselves display themselves into our lives, in our 3D matrix. So we still lack a lot of the components, the, let's say, multidimensional components on space and time, and how certain projects are so quantum, let's say, entangled here. So for example, with the Secret Space program, many people get confused. How is that you have been part of that program and you do not have any military career? You're here and now, and you say that you have served for so many long. Well, it's because it's what it's called a 20-year and back program. It's basically that you get abducted and you are taken and trained, and you serve for about 20 years approximately. Some others serve even more than that or less. And when you have ended that service or the contract is gone, you get age regressed to the age that you were when you were taken. You get memory wiped. They wipe out your memories. They get all of the knowledge from you, all of the information, and then you get, they put you back on Earth, to live the life that you supposedly will have had if you weren't taken. But there's a trick to that. There's a trick to that in regards to quantum mechanics, and it's that the timeline in which you never have been taken to be part of this SSP, to the Secret Space Program, now it does not exist anymore, because you are quantumly connected. There's a quantum entanglement between the you that you're now going to become on Earth, like your supposed natural life without serving there, and the service that you did on that program, because it's technically linearly is the future too, so you are coexisting simultaneously speaking with the you that is serving there and the you who are here to live its life. So the trick is that what you do here in your life influences that person, and vice versa. What she does up there in the program influences me here, because linearly speaking, in terms of timeline and quantum time mechanics, we are simultaneously coexisting in the same timeline, co-creating each other. So that's the trick with the SSP, that many people doesn't get that concept. So they say, okay, so if you already have served the SSP, how is that you're still taking up to the ships and serving? Because I still have experiences in which I see myself in the Secret Space Program, and in which I receive more information here, or she receives information from what I'm doing here. So that's how it actually works, it's connected.
Some of the experiences, in fact, if not all of them, most of them at least, and the higher 90s kind of thing as far as a percentage that I have had, whenever I become conscious that I'm on a craft, we can call it a craft. I could be in their living room for all I know. When I become aware of the fact that I'm in another place with others, I see many different races. I begin to fall into what we call talking, but I realize that's not really what's going on. And when I come to this realization, I ascend to another level where everything seems like there's a sea. I'm in the sea of consciousnesses, and I can hear everyone slightly talking, but when I hear something, which I can hear everything, I lean into it, and then it's basically I focus on that group who's chatting about whatever subject. But in pretty much all of these experiences, it's always about the children. The whole mission, the ship is flying through the galaxies because of the children. And it's sort of like the children actually fuel, literally and metaphorically at the same time. They fuel the purpose, the mission, the craft, and all of that. It's always about the welfare and the future. It's always about future, even though they're in the present moment, but it's about the future of children, the ongoingness of what they have perfected in technology in their own level of awareness. How would you agree, or is it different for you?
You mean hybrid children?
just some of the extraterrestrials, the higher versions of ourselves, be it Andromeda or Pleiadian or whoever. Do you find, what is your experience, your relationship with them, and how do they do things? How do they do things?
Well, to my perspective, of course, the children are really relevant because they represent, of course, the future. It's like it's a constant going on, focus of they are going to be our future. We were all children, and what we're doing now, it's everything that was discussed about when we were young. So, of course, it really matters to them. But yeah, in terms of them, like my experiences, it's all about the ascension process for sure. They are here mostly for that specific reason, because in all the times when the Earth was not prepared for such shifts, many of them were still here, to, be part of, a co-creating experiences with their families that chose to incarnate here, and there were many creations on Earth, many things, It was actually co-created with the help of certain ETs, because there's an excitement of ETs to go to civilizations who are not so advanced, and they have a lot of a lot of path ahead of processes of discovering certain things, achieving certain states of evolution or awareness. So that's a common excitement, that in general. But right now, because of what Earth is going on, and because of how Earth is so relevant to many spiritual images out there, because of our hybrid nature, that there's a really big interest in them to come here and assist in this process, the process of evolution and awakening.
I did see some of your posts and some of your videos, and you had mentioned one way or the other about your background as a starseed. Is there any particular one or a few of these galactic consciousnesses that you most relate to? It feels more like family, or your consciousness is so broad because you've been aware for so long that everybody's family? How does that work for you? Mine is definitely Pleiadian, and probably even further back, Andromeda.
Nice. Well, one of my strongest connection is Andromeda. Other is Arcturus. Other is obviously the hybrid civilizations, one of the strongest actually, the Yael and Sasani. Others are the Zeta Grays, and the others are also the Aldebaran people, the Pleiadian Anunnakis from Aldebaran.
Kim Gary posed a question, though we really don't know because every day is a possibility. She asked the question, have you been shown what's coming for Earth?
Well, I have been shown many different, I have had a lot of prophetic dreams, so far in my life, since my awakening. And I have to tell that that's a personal, that's not a personal, individual experience, you are the one who shifts from one timeline to another timeline available for Earth in a moment, depending on your own genetics, or the state of your own, the evolution of your own genetics and your state of consciousness. So let's say Earth is also multidimensional, such as you individually you are. So there are thousands actually of probable timelines for humanity in which many different things happen eventually. So it's up to you, definitely. It's up to you, literally, like what kind of future you get to manifest for you. So for me, for example, to give an example, when I was starting my awakening, aspects of my DNA were, when I was going through my Kundalini awakening specifically, as I had certain blockages, certain energetic blocks in my lower chakras because of karmic, let's say connections, karmic stuff that I had, energies that I had to integrate. They expressed and manifested in my physical reality, and I found myself in a timeline in which its future showed me how there will be catastrophes in terms of malevolent ETs coming to Earth, specifically the Nibiru people, the Anunnakis from Nibiru planet. I was shown how they will came to return to Earth to conquer us and, basically sabotage us, enslave us, etc. And many different other catastrophes. So that was a really horrible timeline that I was part of. And I thought that I need to, let's say, avoid it somehow, to escape it, physically speaking. But that's not the point. As I continue, strike forward in my evolution, in my evolutionary life, in my evolutionary path in life, I observe how by integrating these energetic blockages or karmic energies and transcending beyond negative belief systems, etc. After all these processes, I'm becoming more light, more crystalline based. My DNA become more crystalline based, and I gain more of that Christ consciousness, and I integrate in my state of being. Different timelines were shown to me, so I started dreaming differently. Like I was starting to be shown and informed of a different future. So that's up to the individual, of course.
Do you have direct experience with MK Ultra?
What, sorry?
Do you have direct experience with MK Ultra?
Sure, I am a survivor of MK Ultra, specifically Monarch programming.
Aren't we all to some degree?
Can you repeat, sorry?
Aren't we all survivors of MK Ultra to some degree?
Well, MK Ultra as a project, it's defined as a formula to gain mind control over an individual after having performed, through processes like satanic ritual abuse or other forms of psychological torture to the target, so that you shatter their consciousness. And through that trauma and that shattered consciousness, you program different alter egos, personality alters that are totally, assembled by the programmers, by the masters, let's say, to be used and trained. They are trained also, and to be used, it's for the purpose of being used for many different purposes, many different, let's say, missions. So as an asset, so for example, for the SSB, there's a lot of connection with MK Ultra and supersoldier programming. So supersoldier training, sorry. And there's also other kind of alters like sexual alters for sexual trafficking and everything. And others who are used they are part of, they become part of dark cults like Freemason groups, and they operate with them and for them. So some authors can be cult members and work with the elite eventually, and many other different tasks like psychic work, in other dimensions, in other places. But that's on an individual note, that I was a survivor of. But when it comes to MK Ultra, like as what you're describing, like collectively, well, I will just simply name it mind control, because there is, techniques to control the population, but it's the techniques used, the processes that are used are different, of course. So, but yes, we all have been programmed since birth. So let's say, yes, we are all survivors.
Can you define, though you touched briefly on it, and I've been hearing the term, and even just by nature and intuitively, I understand the term supersoldier. Can you give us a little more detail of what that really is? What did it take to become like the Galactic Navy SEAL or whatever it is?
Sure. Well, the super soldiers, it's a project that was that first started back in Nazi Germany. it's basically a program to create sort of like a master race of individuals who are called the super soldiers, in which by certain trainings like psychic training and other forms of training, like in C.O.L.O.R itself, they are created to be like superhumans because they have many different abilities, like a really high intellect, a really strong let's say expression of psychic abilities and even strength. So they are trained basically to survive really terrible scenarios, to make them the strongest possible. And even certain genetics from animals or other species are used in their, like dolphins, for example. So it's also like a
so they're grown. These beings are grown, because my friend I told you about Nucleus 8, he was actually grown with the purpose. Nucleus meaning he's going to be at the core or the center of the Federation for security. And 8 in his name is because he's number 8 on the board of 12. So he was grown. So this is a different scenario completely?
No, super soldiers that have been given genetics, it doesn't have to be like, from the perspective that we see eugenic programs. It is eugenics because they use, of course, DNA from other races or species, but they are aware of different ways of altering DNA, that it is not just by raising them having actually been mixed or created as when they were a fetus. So there's many other ways to give hybrid nature to individuals that is not just being created in a laboratory.
Wow, this is also rich. It reminds me of, when I venture out at night and I do soul travel, just sitting here talking to you just brings it all back. What are you doing? Do you have a book in the works, or what kind of promises are coming your way by this bright light you're shining?
Well, I'm working on a book, definitely in 2 of them. One in which I will be sharing my channel material, because I channeled, I am a conscious channeler, so I channel information on metaphysics and spiritual guidance. So I will be writing a book and selling it with all the information that I channeled so far. And the other book, I'm planning to write it on my personal story here on Earth. So it's going to talk, of course, about MK-Ultra, SSP, Super Soldier, and all of these things.
Have you ever channeled on a live program?
Sorry? Like live stream.
Have you ever channeled on a live stream?
I did, but the thing with conscious channeling, it's that you do not need to get into a trance state, and for that matter, it doesn't look like channeling as the way that we know it in the New Age. But furthermore, I can only channel if I have any specific question to pull the information out, of my higher mind. So when people ask me if I can channel, I just tell them that if nobody's asking me a question, I just don't know what exactly to bring forward, So I mostly did it, but when there was a question in between.
I love it. That reminds me, when I do my work, I don't per se have, okay, at 8 o'clock tonight, I'm going to go into vessel, I call it vessel mode, sit down and close my eyes, and it just takes over me. And I don't have to necessarily close my eyes. And I understand some people need to sit down and close their eyes, and that's their way. But I channel when I play music. I play music professionally. And after about 3 or 4 songs, once I get into the zone and I take my shoes off and I'm ready to start getting in there and rocking out, what I know as me is gone. When we start playing and the band is really good that I'm playing with and the whole group is tight and we're playing some killer music and the crowd is digging it, it's like a mothership just descends upon the entire band and uses its will through all the bandmates, and then everybody gets lifted into another place. So yeah, I don't per se have to channel, close my eyes when I channel. That's phenomenal. And when did this occur? I mean, for you, I mean, I did ask you that question a little earlier, a little differently, but when did you start coming into your own? What age was this?
I started becoming aware when, with my Kundalini awakening, with my spiritual awakening, when I was 15 years old.
That was a whole long 6 years ago.
Yes, in 2015. No, well, it was 2016, but as my birthday is in summer, I was 15.
Do you still have access? I'm sure you do, but do you incorporate, can you grab something at a moment's notice? Truly, and I mean galactically. In other words, I need to retrieve something from this particular time, this particular period. Is it something for you that you have to go into a meditation, or do you have to blink your eyes 3 times or tap your heels, or is it something really easy for you to call up, or do you have to do some inner work to actually get to the nugget, the thing that you really want to bring forward?
Well, one of the most, one of the strongest dynamics, or let's say ways that I use to get this kind of information, it's by being excited about it. You know, it sounds simple, but it is like that. You know, when I am excited about something, when you're excited, you're in a state of channeling. So because it's your higher mind, your indirect communication, an allowance of your higher mind to come forward to give you the, let's say, to reflect to you that information of who you really are, you know, your essence. So when you are excited about something, you know, when you are most able to touch on that, to access that, you know. So that's the way that I get to either read people's minds, you know, like their, let's say, auric field, their frequency patterns, the frequency patterns of their aura, their mental, let's say, bodies, their emotional bodies, their chakra system, their connections to ancient and future civilizations, their genetics, etc. All those things I can depict them in energy reading because I'm actually really excited about it. I love to read people's energy because for me it's another way of perceiving, you know, my reality, perceiving people. You know, I have so far, you know, we've all so far been knowing people by their looks, by their nationality, their jobs to study, etc. And that's just such a little bit of their information of who they are. So it excites me, and I love seeing people's, let's say, energies, like multidimensionality. So I start, whenever I see a person that calls my attention, I just look at their eyes and say, oh, he has this connection, this connection, this connection. He has this, you know, genetics, this genetics, and, you know, I start reading it, and I love to interpret it. So that's one way, the easiest way that I have for me to channel information so far. But yeah, there are other ways to do it. You know, you can actually ask your spirit guides or your higher mind to give it to you in a state of meditation, in which you let other cerebral functions or brain waves to be of a particular wavelength that is harmonic with higher dimensions, that is more receptive to information of other dimensions, and be the channel yourself like that, you know, by allowance, you know, not by trying to consciously, you know, meditate on things or process information, but rather by allowing it, you know, like fluid, like water. So there are many ways to access information, specific information, but my way, it's passion specifically.
I love it. That's the word. I always use passion. You said excitement, which will put you in a channel mode. Like I said, when I go to play music and I'm in that energy and I'm ready to get in there, there's this level of, it's like a furnace that burns inside. And one of the words I use all the time is passion. It's a fire. It's a holy fire. And when you can passionately fall into something with everything you have, there is a force, that source that lives in this beautiful place. It's all consuming. It could bring reality to the forefront in a holy instant. So thank you for that. Let me ask you this, dear. Do you think this, I use this in quotes, war on Earth, do you think it's a battle for DNA?
Certainly. And the more you realize, the more you become aware of how mixed we are as a species, how much of a hybrid nature we are as a species, the more you understand why there's such a warfare, of a scenario here on Earth, and why there's so much conflict in between families and spiritual lineages. Because we are not just a product of one species and how many DNA, as we all presented generally by norm, like we're a mix between Anunnaki and hominid DNA, and we were created by the Homo sapiens and blah, blah. That's not true. That's just not true. There's such a lot of hybridization between. I was talking to Phil Gruber the other day, he's an expert on this matter, on human history and DNA, specifically on lineages, And I was like, whoa, my mind exploded because we were just realizing it, and it's just so much ancestry, so much spiritual lineages, so much hybridization in between, so much different groups, so much different names, many different spiritual families that you just, it's obvious that the wars that are going on right now, it's because of human DNA. It's because of, that should have, let's say, desire for power, for domination of one over the other. And I have felt myself, I had the experience of being in the middle, in between some of those battles so far. So I can tell you that that's certainly true.
I would say there has to be so many exchanges of DNA extractions, injections. People think that this rodeo has been happening, the rodeo we call Earth, has been happening 4 whatever billion years ago. What before that? What's been happening before that? So, I mean, this is kind of a refinement process. It is of my nature, especially hanging out with these Indian self-enlightened masters from India for many years, physically, that the human, everything in the universe can aspire to humanhood, but it's only through the human being that the pinnacle of creation can be realized and or experienced. In other words, heaven and earth, God realized within the human. So this is why we got the attention of every possible civilization. They're all, the earth is the rock star. It's the stage right now for the entire cosmos. And depending on what we do with this power, this DNA, this body, this is my DNA, I can choose what I want. Collectively, other civilizations are going to glean from what we do, so we can all lift to each and another level. But this has been going on forever.
That's certainly true, because we represent a convergence, of many of the genetics of these species and lineages. And so, because we're this massive complex cocktail, and there's so much consciousness in between. There's so much history, not just about Earth, but thousands of star systems, because they have their own history as a species. We own that too, since they pass it away to us. That, for sure what we do and how we evolve our, let's say, collective genetic blueprint, it's going to influence them, like all these different species and their own path of evolution, their own cycles of evolution. So it's a single movement in one human consciousness. Just one can mean you can't imagine it.
Wow. I have an empty spot in me right now, Marina. What is your favorite thing about what you do? I mean, you have your hands and fingers in so many pies. You do so much, and you probably do have, I have no doubt, you do them all well. You're very connected. You're very well spoken. I am an English language junkie, and you're very well spoken. You're very articulate. So to me, that implies a connectivity. You're not in a hurry. There's a cadence that you have. It's a natural rhythm, a natural flow. With all this conscious galactic power that you're sitting on, this dynamite, what do you do with that? What is your favorite thing to get that fire going, that passion out of all the things you do?
Well, one of the favorite things that I love to do is to each day, to know more about who I am. And that means the way how I observe it is, of course, in a multidimensional perspective. I love to trace back connections that I have, abilities that I own, and how I fit into this history of, Earth. And so, because people like us, Starseeds and everything, we are wired up in a way that the more that we achieve to express, to become aware, to realize, to awaken, and express who we truly are, the more that we create our mission here on Earth, the more that we complete the mission. Our mission is simple as that: to become aware of who you truly are, because that contains all of the different ways that you can be of service to humanity. And not just on a physical action, a perspective, not just in terms of action, because being of service is not solely like an outside job. It's not going outside and say, well, I have done this, it's an inside job mostly. So when you get to explore and get this inner focus, on what is that you're vibrating at on a soul level, what your frequency it's emanating, it's expressing and sharing with the universe. And when you do an internal process of reawakening, reconnecting to that true essence that you truly are, and let go of all of the lies, all of the blocks, all of the aspects, the parts that are not relevant here right now, the more that you achieve that, the more that you can be of service, the more that it's like, if you observe an ocean, for instances, if you observe water, any liquid substance, and you take an H2O particle, if you put it down or up, if you touch that particle, because of the connectivity that it has with the rest of atoms, that creates that liquid substance, that vibration up and down create waves. That's the physical representation of a wave, that an oscillation, in a two-dimensional perspective becomes a wave, because it travels across, let's say, space and time. So that's how we observe each other's awakening, that the more that one does that inner work with itself, the more, with themselves, the more that the collective will get benefited, because the all is the one, and the one contains the all. It's that metaphysical truth. So
A little early when we're talking about super soldiering, is there anything you want to share that how do you super soldier? Or do you and or others going out there and using, you have a heck of cerebral power, that's for sure. But is that of course, that's probably how you're doing it, but are you just basically stopping thoughts from going otherwhere, or you're dissolving other consciousnesses that are not so vibratory? How does that work for you, dear?
You mean the supersoldier here?
Well, I know for myself that when I go out and about, that I find myself in experiences that I have to truly tend to. And I do that by shifting myself in that moment to another level. And when I do, I know that the said experience that I was in, not only do I shift, I transmute that energy in and of itself right there on the spot. Is this something what you do when you're playing out there, being of service?
Well, there are many psychic abilities used in the supersoldier programming. Project. And I couldn't point out all of them because there are just many, and I'm still awakening to my experience in the SSP. I'm only 21 years old. It's almost like, I have a path ahead of me of perhaps getting more information on the matter. But most people remember their experiences when they're in their 30s, in their 40s, or in their 50s. So for me, I'm just like a starter. And so far, how I observe that I am being trained up there is with, apart from MK Ultra being a tool that they use for certain alters, such as the Delta alter, which is, for example, for assassination. They use certain technologies, like advanced technologies, that use holographic scenarios that are fake. They're like simulations, like virtual reality, in which they place your consciousness there to believe that it's actually happening, that it's really in there in that scenario. And they program certain circumstances, or let's say, again, scenarios, things going on that you are put to survive. I have observed so far zombie killing, as weird as it sounds. I have observed, having to jump off really high places, or having to survive tsunamis, things like that. It sounds really unrealistic because it is unrealistic. It's a holographic scenario. It's virtual reality. It's not true. But your consciousness, as your body there, is holographic. The training serves you because the consciousness believes that it's experiencing it for real. So the possible damage that you attain in the experience, it doesn't affect you because it's a hologram. It's a reality that is not true. But you gain the training, that actually gets to get integrated in your neurological functions, So that's how advanced they are, that they no longer need to pursue risky operations to train their soldiers, but really extreme scenarios are not true. So they gain that the soldiers doesn't get injured in a sense, but they gain the training in extreme environments and circumstances. So I observed those forms of training so far, and now how they have been used. Well, some of them to serve high officials on, average tasks, like go after a person, interrogate this person, etc. But most of them are basically used in psychic work missions, on outer space missions, and even underground bases, There's psychic work. For example, I have observed how they use my channeling abilities to reach out to certain extraterrestrial consciousness and to communicate to them through me. I have observed how they will put me into hypnosis so that I will be getting information from other times, ahead of me or before me, and give them information on timelines, And I have observed how they, how they are basically using also astral projection, how they will make me get out of my body and explore different scenarios to spy on other groups, because it's something that they started even practicing before all this happened back in the 40s, I think, or the 50s. So astral projecting is also used. They make you go to certain places, there's a certain basis or what, and you spy on people, or you observe scenarios or information and you get it back to them. So there are many ways that they use the supersoldier programming, but that's all I know as far as I am aware right now.
Wow, that was very interesting. Thank you, Marina. We're at the top of the hour. Is there something you would like to leave us, the listening audience, with that we can chew on? Something more about you, or something about your mission, or just anything you would like to leave us with?
Well, I would like to remind people about the really important thing right now, and it's that we are living for sure really interesting times, and there's even more interesting things ahead of us. We're living in a really crazy, complex, matrix of many different stories, many different complex topics going on right now. So there's just many things to focus in. Sorry, there are many interesting things to look at and to get excited, or to get, or to, let's say, learn and become aware of. But I believe that there needs to be a certain balance. We need to create a certain balance between the narrative, which is all these different scenarios going on inside of us, and our internal, let's say, narrative, in terms of how do you feel about yourself, what is that you're putting your attention in, how you're reacting to certain energies, what state of being you are at, what is your state of being, what are the things, the blockages, the spiritual, let's say, blocks that you need to put back into integration to move forward. So the narrative outside, of course, is going to be our mirror to look at what is being projected from the inside, because the outside and the inside are not separated, and we know this. But it's really important that we create a balance in terms of not getting too caught off on, this whole narrative of things of these people do this, these people do the other thing, this blah, 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 But what we actually also, start to look inside and, meditate on things like, okay, how do I feel about myself? What are the things, the thoughts that are, emanating from me? And to get to work spiritually so that you can be the best version of yourself, because that's the main point of everything that you see outside right now. It's all about that internal awakening and transformation.
Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome back anytime. Just find me in my inbox. Hey, Keith, what's happening? I got some things I want to share, and we'll set it up and get it going. I appreciate your time, dear. Thank you much.
Likewise, I appreciate you, and thank you so much.
You're welcome, everyone. Today, my guest will be in the future, Marina Seren. What a lovely lady she is, full of information. A lot of power in that small frame, I'm telling you. But you have the same power. She's just where she is in her growth acceleration. We're all playing on the same field. Some people may even be sitting on the bench. That's okay. There's no rush. But if you want to be in the window that's open, there is a rush. The train is moving. Get on the train while you can still run behind the caboose and have somebody pull you up. Because the energy is going to pick up. And it's going to pick up in the most beautiful ways. And it's going to go down in the most beautiful ways. And it's really just your simple choice. Now, you may think that your life is one of perfect balance because you feel great and everything's wonderful in your life. Well, this is about the subconscious programs that you forgot existed somewhere in there. They're going to start revealing themselves. And I suggest that you do the inner work, because you could find yourself in a situation that the monster is just too big to slay or to tame, or to see it as yours and claim it versus blame it, and know what to do with that, because it may just blindside you. I care about you. I love you. Spread that beautiful, delicious love you have for everyone. Awaken, illuminate, ignite. Keith Anthony Blanchard, Center of Light Radio. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Season's Greetings. Whatever makes you feel best that I could possibly say, I want that for you. Peace, love, and light. Hopefully Marina's going to stick around, and I will see her shortly in the green room.